use in the first grade, with fountain pens his father had bought at Michel on the Cours Mirabeau. The papers were out of order, and mixed in with the legal documents were odd bits of paper that characterized his noble family's disregard for money, for filing, and for organization in general. Receipts had been kept in flour tins. 100-franc bills were dropped or hidden under the library's faded Persian carpet. The electricity and telephone companies had to call regularly because of late payments, but they never dared to cut off the chateau's power. He began separating the papers, dividing 20-year-old bank statements and shopping lists from important legal documents. He laughed as he picked up a yellowed receipt from Aix's best pâtisserie, still in operation, with a fourth-generation chef doing the baking. The receipt was for 2 brioches, which could have been for him and François, or Marine, except that it dated from the 1950s, years before any of them had been born. He held the receipt in his hands, calming down a bit and allowing himself to think again of Marine and their friendly, pre-adolescent arguments over the merits of brioche versus croissant, or the chocolate powder banania versus quick. She could always out-argue him. Étienne de Bremont's smile froze when he heard the chateau's front door open. Instinct told him to stand closer to the wall, partly hiding his thin frame in the shadows. He took off his reading glasses and rested them inside his V-neck sweater. Footsteps quickly ran up the first flight of stairs, and then down the hall and up the second flight, down the next hall and up the last set of stairs, these narrower and wooden rather than stone. Holding his breath, Étienne reasoned that the footsteps probably belonged to Jean-Claude, who must have gotten it into his head that he couldn't possibly spend a night away from the chateau. His stupid plants would miss him too much. When the attic door opened, Étienne pointed his flashlight at the figure in the doorway. He sighed and said, "What are you doing here?" The shutter rattled intermittently against the stone wall as Étienne spoke to his uninvited visitor. A strong wind had begun to blow, carrying their voices out the open window, over the pine trees, and up the hill toward the field of lavender. As the wind grew louder, so did their voices, now tinged with anger. Étienne, oddly enjoying the insults, imagined that he could smell lavender. He was getting bored with this exchange. For a split second, he turned his face toward the open window in order to inhale the night breeze, and as he turned back around, he heard a rushing sound on the attic's wooden floor and felt hands on his chest. The mistral blew around his body as he fell. He looked up at the attic window and saw the faint light from his flashlight, and he heard the wind, not whistling, but groaning. Even in the few seconds before his death, all Étienne de Bremont could think of were those 2 brioches, and how he had always preferred brioche to croissant. Chapter 1. Saint-Antonin, France, April 17th, 5:30 p.m. Verlaque stood in front of the caretaker's house. It was a medieval cottage, its thick walls made of a golden, rough-hued stone that glowed in the late afternoon light. The windows were small to keep out the summer heat, and their wooden shutters were painted a faded gray-blue. Behind Verlaque loomed the mountain. He remembered what Paul Cézanne had said of the Montagne Sainte-Victoire, that he could move his easel half a meter and see a totally different mountain. Verlaque tried it now, shifting his heavy body slightly to the right. It worked. The spiky top of one of the mountain's many limestone knobs, its south flank resembled a dinosaur's back, came into view. A shadow suddenly floated across the peak, and its color changed from dusty rose to gray. He turned back around and looked at the chateau. Not really a chateau, but a bastide, a country home built by Aix-en-Provence's wealthy 17th-century citizens who, every July, would leave their downtown mansions and make their way, servants in tow, to the cooler countryside. It was cold up here. Although less than 10 kilometers from Aix,